Sisters, hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a twofer tonight, as you know. we are doing Herbwise and Gemwise along with our Mabon ritual. I will tell you candidly that I have a fever, and so my intention is to be with you for 2 hours. We may run a little short, and if we do, I will make that up to you in some way. So I've taken lots of medicine in hopes that I will have my voice and the fever won't get too high. But I am here with you, and I'm very excited to be here with you. If you've been with me for a while, you know I don't like to ever cancel anything, and so I resist. Yesterday, I could not get out of bed. I still was working, but I was working from bed. So you need to have with you for Herbwise and Gemwise, you need to have your perfume for Ma'at. You need to have your stones for Ma'at, which are these beautiful stones right here in my hand. And you need to have your herbs for Ma'at. And we're going to talk about each of those individually, and also we're going to talk about collectively about how you work with the trio of them. And thank you so much, you guys. I know I feel the love. I really do. My worst fear is I'm going to be too sick to be here for Drum Journey tomorrow. I'm really hoping that's not the case. The show will go on, by the way, even if I'm not here. And Elaine, nobody does Drum Journey like Elaine does. I'm gonna pause for a minute and turn up the air though, because it's warm in the room and my fever is high. So hold on just a second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna turn the AC up just a little. Okay. So here comes my favorite siren. I have my hourglasses ready. One of the things we're going to do as part of our Mabon ritual, and I'm so glad that I'm not missing it because it's so important that we flip the hourglass together. And you know, we are in the Mabon window. Remember that the high holidays are always in effect from 24 hours before until 24 hours afterward. So we are in this Mabon window. So now is really the time. And I'll talk more about the hourglass. I didn't talk too much about it publicly, but I wanted to talk with you about it privately because it's so important. And it's such an important gesture. It's a sign to the universe of your readiness for change. It really is. And so I always tell people, and by the way, this one came from Home Goods. So don't think you have to go break the bank. I love Home Goods. But Home Goods sources a lot of times from very interesting, very respectable sources. Different places in Thailand and China and in India too. They source from artisans and craftspeople. And I think they do it in quite an ethical way. So people are always asking me, should I feel bad about shopping at Home Goods? And it's like, no, I think they are supporting a craft economy in a pretty powerful way if you think about the scale of what they're doing too. Well, Karen says that her dad made an hourglass for her years ago. I would love to see a picture of that actually. And what a beautiful gift. I actually had one made for Dave for his birthday this summer. I had a custom hourglass made for him because he, you know, even men like the concept of the hero's journey and sort of flipping the hourglass and being ready to create a new adventure for themselves. That's a theme or a concept that resonates with men and women. So anyway, we are live. Hopefully you can see me. We are live, but we're going to start with Herbwise and Gemwise first. And so one of the things, as we go back to the energy of Ma'at, and please feel free to ask any questions as we go along. I was curious to know, we talked a little bit about it in the group, but I was curious to know, now that we're sort of a week out from the ritual, you know, how do you feel about the work with Ma'at? How do you feel? Do you feel like you have a strong connection with her? Do you feel like her messages and medicine for you and with you was clear? Do you have lingering questions? And here's the question I really want to ask you now that we're sort of this far out. Do you think you'll go back to her? Like, you know, a lot of the goddesses we think, well, we should go back to them, or do we go back to them? A lot of you have talked about Freya and the fact that you've gone kind of consistently back to Freya. And there's certain goddesses I think really resonated with you this year. Artemis, a lot of you have told me that you really connected with Artemis and you've gone back to her. I would love to know. I appreciate that, Lisa. It's okay. I think I'm going to be okay. I'm good at powering through and then resting afterwards. So my fingers are just crossed for tomorrow. Interesting. Dollface13, let me know your name, because I don't like to call people by handles if I know the name behind. So Dollface13, tell me what your name is. But saying I resonated with Ma'at the most so far. And you know what, Cordelia, you know what's really interesting about the maternal piece is there were a lot of people here in person in the event. And as they were walking out, I overheard every conversation, and every single person was saying Ma'at was so much more maternal than I expected her to be. I thought that was really interesting for them to say. And I don't know what they expected. I mean, I guess when you're thinking about a goddess of justice, and especially something from the Egyptian pantheon, you might be imagining or envisioning or expecting someone a little heavier handed. And especially because she was involved in judgment, right, as people transitioned and they died. So I think that's interesting that people saw her as very, very maternal. Yeah, Fran says Ma'at and Artemis for me so far. Really, really good. Okay. Are there Artemis kits left? I don't know, actually. I'd have to look. Most of the kits so far have sold out. And so I'm not sure that there are any kits left. You know, it's gotten to the point now where people are kind of into the swing of the goddess thing. And so people are buying their kits a little bit earlier than usual. Nice. Yeah. Lisa's saying Bridget, Frigg, and Ma'at were the maternal ones for her. Very interesting, isn't it? Ma'at and Asherah for Jamie. Asherah is still big magic, and here's what's really interesting. And I'm going to draw this line as we go through the triple goddesses next month. There's a connection between Hecate and Asherah. There's a connection between Lilith and Asherah too. And so, and part of it is, you know, Lilith is one of the faces of God that was eliminated from the Christian narrative, right? And so she shares a very interesting lineage of exclusion with Asherah that we're going to talk about and tease out. And I'm loving this because this is, you know, the part of me that really likes the intellectual side of what we do. I love the magical and the metaphysical as much as anybody else. The part of me that loves the intellectual side of what we do really loves to see and tease out these connections. Do you know what I mean? Because I think they're so important. And so I'm constantly looking for etymological, you know, in terms of meanings of words and meanings of names. I'm constantly looking for etymological or, you know, epistemological evidence that there are connections between and among these goddesses that we haven't teased out yet. And a lot of them are sort of like difficult to understand and analyze and not talked about very much. I mean, try and find this research. It's really tricky. And a lot of what you see when you pull up, if you research Frigg or Anuket, what you end up seeing is kind of like the same stuff over and over again. Which pantheon they're from, that they're for health and, you know, whatever, protection. And but very few people are going back and really teasing out the significances of their names, of their pantheons, of what was happening politically at the time, or what civilization morphed from, you know, A to B and became, you know, how the civilizations developed over time. I'm interested in that. Lisa says there's a biblical mirror between God and Asherah and Mary and King, I hesitate to not pronounce the name correctly, Queen Vashti and Esther. Very, very interesting. Yeah, so what we could do, if you guys would like a list, we can put that up in the classroom. If you'd like a list of the 12, which really is turning out to be 14, because we have 3 goddesses that we're working with in October. I'd be very happy to do that. And then I'd like you to meditate a little bit on what have you learned. Be really cool, wouldn't it, if you could sort of summarize in one sentence, you know, from Ma'at, I learned ... fill in the blank. Or the gifts that Ma'at gave me were A, B, and C. Because I really would like you to be able to like summarize and codify, like, what is it that you're getting from each of these goddesses? What, as you move into her pantheon and into her realm and into her temple, what is she able to show you? And remember that it's all different. You know, just like every spiritual teacher you have is different. What I'm able to teach you in my classes is different than what someone else can teach you, which is why at any one time I'm always studying with 2 or 3 different people. And that's because I get different water from each well. Do you know what I mean? That's probably the same thing with you too. I look for different styles, different, sometimes a different gender, sometimes a different training or a different age. You know, I'll have one teacher at one point who's younger, and then another teacher who's older, or one who comes from one country, or one who comes from another. So anyway, just to put that out there, I really want you to start to think about what you're getting. And it's just like college. Remember do you remember, I don't know if that happened to you, but it happened to me. The classes where I took more notes after the semester was over, I felt like I learned more. The classes where I didn't take any notes, when the semester was over, I didn't feel like I learned as much. Does that resonate with you? So I kind of want you to do that. I kind of want you to walk away with like a book of notes about, you know, almost, you could do automatic writing too. Like if the goddess were to write through you, what would she write? You know? Yeah, we can talk about that too. Okay. So let's begin talking about these beautiful stones. Now, Ma'at was tricky. Like I said, Ma'at has certain herbs that are associated with her, and then it becomes up to me sort of to figure out how to connect, you know, certain stones and certain herbs with these goddesses that have these lineages that really speak for them, you know, that precede them, and that give us sort of a, I don't know, an expectation of what we think they would, you know, smell like, or what kinds of herbs and essences one might have burned in the old days in the temples to honor them in their presence. So it was tricky. The one stone, and I said this in Full Moon Ritual too. I love that. Sherry says, I could write a novel from what I learned from Ma'at. And one of the things you might do is start that writing or that journaling from your Full Moon Ritual experience. You know, did she give you something? Did she show you a symbol? Did she say something? When you were looking in the mirror, you know, and seeing yourself, what did you morph into? Did you shapeshift into an owl or into a crow, or did one of those birds, because birds are her totem, you know, did they fly to come and visit you? And you could even just start there, let the journaling start there, and then from there, you know, kind of distill all of the lessons and the, you know, whatever visuals come. That might be a really nice place to begin. Derry, it's really funny, right? Like, this is, you know, it's funny to me. I think in many ways taking spiritual classes is better than college, because this is the stuff that actually enhances your life. You know, this is the stuff that redirects your behavior or your perspective, which allows you to enjoy your life on a much richer and deeper level. But you have to do this spiritual work. And what's really funny, and I think that paradigm, by the way, is going to shift. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think there'll be a point in our human development where we look and say, if it doesn't matter how much mechanical or transactional knowledge we have, right? And I'm raising 2 kids right now, and I help them with their homework, so I have clear view into like how mechanical and transactional primary and secondary school is right now. It's completely transactional and mechanical, and that's okay. And there are certain skill sets you have to build and develop, but it's like the glue that connects all of that mechanical transactional wisdom is missing. And so a lot of the meaning, and some schools are starting to talk about narrative and meaning making, which really excites me, because what they're doing is they're inviting students to create meaning out of what is otherwise sort of one-dimensional transactional information, you know? So they're asking students to extrapolate. Like, if A plus B equals C, who cares? And they're asking students to go from, because we usually stop at A plus B equals C, and like that's the right answer and you pass the test. But this next question of like, but what does C mean? What does C mean if the context changes? What does C mean if, you know, let's talk about something phenomenological, like there is no God? Or what does C mean if there is a God? Or what does C mean if, and all these sort of spiritual questions that we could ask. But we stop at A plus B equals C. And so part of, I think, what we're longing for, and it's funny because I've been asked now to twice to teach meditation to the kids at my children's school, which is an elementary school. And I think it's because they're starting to see that there is a meta knowledge. You know, there's a much larger, broader body of awareness and information that needs to be accessed. And part of it is teaching, and then part of it is getting really quiet and letting students discern and develop the answers for themselves, which is really interesting too. It's very cool. Frances used to do that. Their 6th grade art classes, she'd take to look at a piece of artwork and write your story of what you see and feel. Yeah, like the so what question, right? So what? So here's this piece of art. So what? Oh, so this piece of art is important because when you look at it, you feel more peaceful. Or this piece of art is important because it tells a story of the people who lived at that time. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the extrapolation that I think is really powerful. So anyway, I'm sort of digressing, but it's so good. And Lisa says she's doing mindfulness with her kids too that involves meditation. But I think part of it is, and it was interesting because one of you wrote in today to me and said, there are times where I resist, what happens in sabbatical because I want you to be more active and fix and solve things for me. But what I'm realizing in terms of going back to POP and doing the work around mindfulness and neutrality is I actually have to, no one can fix these things for me. I have to go in and fix this for myself. And so what is most helpful is that there's a container of support where I know I can turn if I have questions, but I have to sort of navigate in the darkness by myself and try and figure this out. And by the way, we're sort of transitioning from talking about Ma'at to talking about Mabon. But one of the things we're going to talk about next hour with that whole, turning of the hourglass is this is what Joseph Campbell was talking about. The entire hero's journey means and it requires, and I really want you to hear this tonight because this is like big wisdom for all of us. The hero's journey requires you to start out alone, and it requires you to end up alone. You meet key figures along the way who help unlock doors, but they help you unlock the doors with a key that only you have, right? And I think this is what's really important because when we understand that, we don't put people on pedestals and we don't think other people have all the answers for us, and we don't think that a pill is going to cure us. We don't think a teacher is going to solve things for us. What we come to realize is I had the key all along. What I needed was encouragement, support, a sounding board, you know what I mean? Maybe a little direction, like, hey, you're going this way, you need to go that way, a little bit of like pushing you on the right path. But the mentor in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, the mentor doesn't come along with a different key. The mentor shows the hero how to turn the lock with his own key. Or just says you're strong enough to, you know what I mean? Yeah, and it was to the point of my post the other day, because I think people think that something's going to come along and make them happy. And the reality is your happiness is going to come the day you realize that you've had the key the whole time and you just turn the lock. And then your mentor can stand by and go, oh, congratulations. Yay. I knew you could do it, and then you're like, yeah, I guess I knew I could do it too. But that moment is such a sweet reward because you have to struggle and fight for it so much. But society, so this is my last point I'll make on this note, but I'm tying this back to Ma'at, so you'll see this wasn't a complete digression. Society sets us up to think that it's all external. You know what I mean? So if you just graduate from high school, you'll figure it out. If you just get the right job, you'll figure it out. If you just find the right partner, you'll figure it out. If you just. And I think we need to teach people earlier that it's, what it really is if you just go within earlier, then you'll figure it out. But it's that constant external search. It's those ruby slippers. It's that constant external focus, that external expectation that something is going to come along and it's going to, all of a sudden it's all going to click and fall into place. It's just not the case. Okay. Am I preaching to you? Preaching to me a little bit too. I still fall into that trap of thinking like, well, if I just do this, then it'll all be great. And as soon as I do that, I sort of like, smack myself a little bit. Like, you know better. You know better than that. It isn't going to be that one thing that's going to solve it all. It is not. It is going to be your inner progress and your ability to not be reliant on an external paradigm that is going to make all the difference for you. And then what happens is all the doors get unlocked at once. All of a sudden the health door gets unlocked, the happiness door gets unlocked, the relationship door gets unlocked. And then you're like, whoa, what just happened? It wasn't just that I got happier, my health got better and my relationship got better. Like, what just happened? And that's when you realize how interconnected everything is and how dependent it is on your ability not to externalize, the reward. Okay, aho. No more preaching. Yeah, Heather, to your point, it's a digression, not digression, right? But it's really hard. And Facebook becomes this incubator for that, right? Where it's like, I hate my life and I can't find the answers, and this is happening and this is falling apart and all this stuff. And it becomes this incubator where you want to reach out to people and say, you have the key. I don't know if you don't believe it. I don't know if you don't see it, or I don't know if you haven't stuck it in the hole and tried to turn it, but you have the key. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk about keys. And by the way, gemstones can be keys sometimes. What's really funny is I haven't seen you since Denver, but I wasn't feeling super great in Denver. I saw you at full moon, but I didn't see you. I wasn't feeling super great in Denver. And I got there and started connecting with those stones, and it was like something I plugged in, and then all of a sudden I was like, whoa. It helps you remember why you work with crystals, because that raising vibration thing is really powerful. It was just a matter of me being in the vicinity with that much quartz where I was just like, wow, you take it for granted, but it's real. And when you're in the vicinity of that much, and I have a lot of crystals here in the building here at Sage Goddess, but I mean, nothing compared to like 2 city blocks, right? Of just nothing but quartz. I plugged in really good and it felt really, really good. So the stones are allies and they can help us. They really can help us figure out that we have the key already and we just have to be able to turn it for real. Okay, so let's talk about what stone could be an incredible ally in this process of helping you turn the wheel, and understand that the power is within you now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for something else to come or somebody to show you or anything like that. I think being surrounded by a solid container is helpful, but the work is yours. This is tiger's eye. The tiger's eye is a very interesting material, and it shifts depending on what it grows with. Do you know what tiger's eye is called when it grows with hematite? Little Gemwise pop quiz. What do we call tiger's eye that grows with hematite? That's a cool tight shot of that beautiful stone, because you can really see the light play. It's so beautiful. I love that my computer camera is finally cooperating with this work that we're doing. Tiger iron. That's right. And to me, I have to tell you, I think tiger iron is one of the most perfect gemstones there is, because it's tiger's eye. A lot of times you see red jasper in tiger iron and hematite. Tiger's eye is intuition and protection and balance and correctness and right outcomes. That's all tiger's eye. And then red jasper, which is also in Ma'at Set, is about strength and support. It's sort of like a nurturing stone, but it has a masculine energy to it. It's part of why I love red jasper so much. And I want you to think about, I may have to adjust the blinds in a minute because the sun is really, really bright. Can you see me okay? I want you to think about for just a second. This is an interesting question relative to stones. I want you to think about whether you are like 50-50, divine masculine and feminine, or are you more 60-40 or 75-25? I really want you to sit with this question for a minute, because I think it impacts which stones you connect with and how well you connect with them and what they do for you energetically. Does that make sense? So I'm asking the question because tiger's eye and red jasper are 2 stones that I see as masculine stones. To some extent, the same can be said for zebra jasper, although for me, zebra jasper has sort of a feminine vibe, interestingly enough. I'm going to go close this, so bear with me because the sun's going to hit us really hard in a second. Okay, I'm back. Yay, I can see you better now. Okay, fun question though, right? And I'm reading the feed and it's like 60-40, 50-50, 60-40, 50-50. It's kind of my hypothesis. Are you ready? I think most of us in sabbatical are at least 50-50. At least 50-50. Maybe 60-40. I don't think many of us in sabbatical are like 90-10. And I have a theory about it. So Amy's saying she's 80% feminine, 20% masculine. So that would be on sort of like a, if I was creating a spectrum of answers that I would anticipate for sabbatical, that would be sort of on this side of the spectrum. And then somebody saying I'm 100% masculine, 0%, that would be on the other side of the spectrum, right? And I'm sort of, I would say 70-30, masculine, feminine. And part of it is, this could get really complicated, so I won't go too far into it. Part of it is your astrology. Because remember, the signs are masculine and feminine. And so if you, and fire and earth tend to be more masculine, water and air tend to be more feminine. I have no water in my chart. I have one sign and an air sign, and that's my rising sign. Everything else is earth and fire. It's a pretty interesting profile, right? So, but it makes, and I don't, because I don't show up that way in my life, I show up as very feminine in terms of like my appearance and things. It sort of throws people off how actually masculine I am in terms of being assertive and all these things. So I do think a lot of us had past lives as men. Like I have no doubt about it. And what's really awkward is when you meet somebody in this lifetime as a woman who you had a relationship with in a past life as the man. Have you had that happen? I've had that happen. And I want you to think about it, because if you're really drawn, if you loved this gemstone set, I would say there's a lot of divine masculine in you, because these are warrior stones. Without question, these are warrior stones. Now, there are other sort of methods to my madness here. There had to be a red stone, because part of what Ma'at represents is the heart. I didn't want to do a heart chakra stone. I sort of wanted to really focus on blood, because blood is associated with Ma'at. She's associated with death and with the weighting of the heart, the physical weight of the heart, because the heart was taken out of the body during the embalming process, placed on a scale in ancient Egyptian times, and then measured against, Ma'at and her tools to see whether it was equal or less than or more than, which would determine sort of the outcome of the afterlife for a person. So I raised the question, this is another thing you could journal about, right? I know a lot of you like to journal. I love to journal too. One of my favorite things is when people give me prompts to journal too, because I'm not, for myself, I'm not super creative at coming up with the questions, but I love responding to questions. I know you do too. So I think, why don't you work with this a little bit? And you might even like divide a page in half. Can you imagine? Where like half of the page is letting your divine inner masculine talk to you, and the other half of the page is letting your divine inner feminine talk to you. Wouldn't that be cool? Like I have a situation in my life right now where like I have to make a decision and like I don't have a lot of clarity. So part of me is like, wow, wouldn't it be cool to like divide the page in half and let my inner masculine give me counsel? You know what I'm talking about? And then on the other side of the page, let my inner feminine give me counsel. And then sit back and read it. Like what counsel makes most sense for this issue? It could be a really fun way of, and Cindy's saying you switch writing hands if you can to facilitate that, right? Because for me, my right side is my feminine side and my left side is my masculine side. I'm just saying there's lots of really interesting exercises you can do by giving different parts of you a voice. You can also, if you're going through a challenge, you can also give your inner child a voice. Like, what would the little you say? Something to think about. Okay, so fun. So tiger's eye is that stone. One of my favorite stories about tiger's eye was when I was first started working with stones. And the person who showed this to me told me how much he loved the stone. And I asked him why. And he said, because it was my mother's favorite stone. And I said, well, that's interesting. Why was it your mother's favorite stone? And he said, my mom passed away when I was really young. And one of my only memories of her was that she always carried tiger's eye. She had a tiger's eye ring and a tiger's eye necklace. And she said, we had no money to buy anything. So these were like her prized possessions. and she just loved it. She said it felt like it kept her safe, like it was a good stone because she was kind of a gypsy and she just kind of wandered the earth. She was a little bit of a hippie before her time, my friend's mom. So my friend's the same age as I am, so I think his mom was probably born in the 40s or 30s. But anyway, so he said she was a hippie before her time, and she just loved tiger's eye and didn't own very many things, but she felt like for as short as her life was, it was a very protective stone for her. So he said, I always have felt like when I connect with tiger's eye, I'm connecting with my mom in this really interesting way. So that story has stayed with me. You know, certain stories just like resonate with you. So I often, whenever I'm working with a stone, I think about his mom and how much she treasured that as a gemstone. But I do think it is protective, and I do think it is a talisman that helps you connect to a deeper level and layer of your own wisdom. And I do think it is the only stone for balance, which is why all of us were like, Ma'at has to have this stone in her set. If you ever face conflict and you're not sure what stone to work with, whatever kind of conflict it is that you face, this is the number one stone. It will get you through the conflict. It will help things, evolve and turn out in your favor. So it's a stone of really good fortune and good luck. It's all the things. And it was funny because we're starting to provide gemstones wholesale to different places like gift shops. And we've had to sort of figure out what gemstones these shops should carry. And they're turning to us and saying, I don't know, what are the top 10 stones? Which for me is tricky because on any given day, my top 10 stones will be really different. Do you know that every single list that we came up with for what these gift shops that aren't normally crystal shops, like what top 10 stones they should have, every single list had tiger's eye. And it tells you something about how important it is too. Oh, isn't that cool? I love reading the feed and how you guys are connecting to that. That inner child work during the Ma'at ritual was, I think, really deep for all of us. Okay, so that's tiger's eye. Red jasper we talked about a little bit. It's such an important stone. And as I said during the Ma'at ritual, it's so overlooked. And I think it's because people see it all the time. And so here's what happens. And I tried to show this in the insider group too when I was in Denver. When we think we know something like amethyst, all of a sudden we tune out. Like, oh, I know everything about amethyst. But there's still like new forms, like the amethyst flowers that are coming out of the earth. There's a huge phantom amethyst that they're finding in Uruguay, and that's like one little pocket of this one mine. And so we start tuning out to these stones that like we think we know everything about. And I think the same happens with red jasper. And then we see new forms, or newer forms, I should say, like brecciated jasper, which is still a form of red jasper, but it has more lines and striations in it. But red jasper will keep you strong during difficult times. I promise, it really will. And then zebra jasper is a lot about duality, honoring the duality within. This is about setting what we call an emotional cadence or an emotional tempo in your life and trying to find some stability there, which I think is really, really important. This stone also helps you integrate the wilder aspects of your nature. I used to have a wild woman gemstone set, and this was one of the stones that was in that set. But this is about authentic living. This is about really stepping fully into who you are and accepting yourself authentically with no limits, which again is really tricky for a lot of us who've sort of not accepted ourselves through our lives for one reason or another. We've been too outgoing or too aggressive or too assertive or too playful or too loving or too intimate. And so now we're kind of trying to pull ourselves back. And I think part of it is that's not the right way to go. You have to find a way to accept yourself with all of the flaws and the idiosyncrasies that make up who you are. You have to do that. I think that's the work of, I would like to say it's the work of your 30s and 40s, because I think most women I know who are in their 50s and 60s have kind of worked that out. I'd love to know what you think about that. But I think the work of the 20s is to figure out, what you need to build. Maybe you don't build it in your 20s, but I think in your 20s you figure out what it is you need to build to make your life full. And then in the 30s and 40s, I think you build it, and I think you figure out who you are and you come to terms with it. Like, this is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I'm good at. This is what I suck at. This is what I don't like. And then in your 50s and 60s, it's about living fully into that authenticity so that you can model it for other people who are coming up, because it's very inspiring. I don't know about you, but my favorite people on the planet are my friends who are in their 50s and 60s. Because they're like, don't sweat that stuff. You are who you are. You just get out there with your purple hair and Sing your little song. It's true. It's a beautiful thing. I love it so much. I love that. Katie says, one thing I can pride myself on and thank my parents for is that I never felt ashamed of who I am. I have known me from a very young age. Now, Katie, that's kind of the coolest thing I've read all day long. And you do need to thank your parents for that. And I'll tell you, it's a struggle because like my daughter is a little bit crazy and I love her and I love how all of her sort of crazy idiosyncrasies, because they're clear and they're evident at 7 years old. There's part of me that struggles too. As a parent, you want your kids to be safe and sort of fit in the box because you want them to have a good experience in society. So it's this struggle between, let me cultivate her authenticity, her power, but let me also teach her that there's a system and that she's to some extent has to work within that system to be successful in life, whatever we define that. And so it's this constant balance. And I think I model that for her because she sees me acknowledging my own authenticity in very, vivid ways, and yet still participating in society and trying to be a productive member and give back and treat people kindly and all those things. So it's like this, it's this mix too, That's very cool. All right. So if you didn't love these stones already, I hope you really love them now. We're talking about authentic power. We're talking about strength during difficult times. We're talking about intuition and protection. We're talking about balance, right outcomes, justice, all these things completely embodied in 3 little stones right there. And that's Ma'at too, because remember, the most important thing is true. I love reading your comments. I'm reading them while I'm talking to you. The most important thing that you have to remember about Ma'at, and I said this during the ritual too, she's not just a goddess. She's a noun. She's a thing. She's the system. She is the creation. She is the creativity. Do you know what I mean? And that separates her from a lot of the other goddesses who are just sort of figureheads. They just are emblematic. They aren't, to the Egyptians, Ma'at was both a beautiful goddess who determined the course of your afterlife, as well as the reason that, the stars shone in the sky at night. The reason that the moon rose at a certain time and the sun set at a certain time. That was Ma'at too. So what I love is that the stones in that way sort of hold the complexity of a system or a structure or a paradigm plus all of the, the support that comes from that. The idea that there is, and you think about it, protection from chaos is tiger's eye. Strength and encouragement and support is red jasper. And then being able to acknowledge that you're both a woman, a goddess, and a creator of order from chaos. Like you are that too. And I think that's what the zebra jasper represents for sure. So good. So red jasper info again, Haley, it is for strength. It's a very powerful root chakra stone. So it's for strength. It's for encouragement. It's a warrior stone. So Native Americans thought it kept them safe during battle. And this is a little stone right here. All jasper, you have to know, red jasper, polychrome jasper, evergreen jasper, all yellow jasper, ocean jasper, every single member of the jasper family is considered to be a stone of loving kindness. The jasper stones are the hugs of the lapidary family. They're just the nurturers. So then once you are working with jasper, you have to ask, so what kind of nurturing is this, right? And so the nurturing medicine of red jasper is strength, because it's going to connect you. I mean, think about just like feel the sides of your hips and imagine that right from your hips extended a huge beam of light that connected you down into the center of the earth. It's a beautiful way to get grounded. But just imagine sending that beam of light right from, I'm pointing, I wish you could see, I'm like got my fingers right on my hips, right on my panty line, and imagine this a beam of red light extending right from there down to the center of the earth and like hooking you onto the center of the earth. And imagine that that's always there for you. So no matter what's going on up here and your crown chakra is activated and your heart chakra is open and you're feeling all the things and you're thinking all the things and you're whatever else is happening, you are anchored. That stone to me. Red jasper and brecciated jasper. Brecciated jasper has a lot more lines. Red jasper usually has some lines, A little bit of white, like you see right here. A little bit of white, a little bit of black, a little bit. It's rare to find red jasper that just has nothing, although you do find that. Brecciated jasper has a ton of lines. So it's really about the quantity of the lines that differentiates them. Yeah, Amy, you know what? I completely agree. Amy says Ma'at Stone's set being very masculine, interesting to me because she came to me as very mothering, nurturing, motherly, but so strong and grounded in truth and wisdom. And that to me, you guys, is the reason why I think she may be one of our more powerful goddesses of the year, which is hard to say because we're about to talk about Lilith and Morrigan and Hecate. So it's hard to say she's more powerful than them. But I will say that she is that balance. And think about what she represents. I mean, she is the balance, right? That's how the Egyptians thought of her, that she was the balance. She didn't represent it, she was it. And so if there is a figure that can teach us about holding that masculine and that feminine all at once with a lot of grace, I think it's her. You know, to be that energy that can stabilize you and strengthen you and protect you during battle, but also at the same time love you in an unconditional way and help open your eyes to see the beauty of the child within you who still needs healing. Because for so many people, what Ma'at was saying during the meditation was, you know, I see you, you can come back to me anytime, I'm holding this space for you, I honor you, I love you. I mean, the messages that people were getting from Ma'at were very much that way, very maternal, very loving, very subjective, you know, very personal. The book that I read from at the full moon, I don't have it here. I think it's called The Shamanic Mysteries of Egypt, Haley. And it's just so good. So good. It's one of my favorites. I have a very small bookshelf in my office here because I have all my books at home. So if you were to look at my bookshelf here, you would see like I only have my favorites. The things that I have here are the things I have 2 copies of because they're so important that I have to have one at home and one at work. And that's the one. Plus the Emma Orr book that I love so much. That's another one where I have 2 copies, one here and a Book of Stones. There's like a few that I would say I have to have 2 copies of because they're just so important for the work. Lost Lands, Lucy Cavendish's book on the Lemurian is there. Okay, good. Oh, look at that, Lisa. The root word breccia is from Old High German brecca, meaning breaking. The stone in geology is composed of angular fragments that have melted together. Love that, Lisa. That's really good. Okay, so let's talk. It's hard to believe. Sarah, I'd be really happy. I don't like do it unless I ask you guys because I don't want to just randomly post pictures that you're not interested to see. But I'd be happy to post a picture of my bookshelf here if you guys would like to see it. I kind of like the idea that we have the same books, you know. And it's probably only 10 or 15 books that I have here because they're constant reference books. The Llewellyn books, did you see? I've had them in the shop because Llewellyn did the seasonal books. Remember the Litha and the Samhain? The Samhain book I think we just had not that long ago. But those Llewellyn seasonal books are fantastic. The little small ones, they're like this thick. If you don't have those, you should own those. I do have the 12 of them here, the 12 holiday books. And they're fantastic. They have recipes, ritual ideas, poems. It's really, really, really good stuff. Yeah, Heather, I hear you. Oh, her name is escaping me. Dolores Cannon. Heather. Have you read all of Dolores Cannon's books? Dolores Cannon, C-A-N-N-O-N. If you have not read her books, please, please, please get one before you go on your cruise and just get them used on Amazon. I don't know if you read her books, but she is the real deal. She passed away a couple of years ago, and I cannot recommend her books highly enough. She is awesome. That's right. Lisa's like, she's awesome. Everybody who comes to me and says, I just want to read a book, I'm like, oh, here. She's got a ton. Yeah, the 3 Waves of Volunteers. Woo! Haley just started digging in. You can't pick a bad book. The 3 Waves of Volunteers is interesting. I don't know if it's the right place to begin because I came to that book when I had already read most of her other books. I have not read her daughter's books. I have not. But I'll tell you, Dolores Cannon is my spirit animal. I really love her. Okay, so let's talk about herbs. Let's talk about anise for a second. You know, anise, and if you know, a lot of you are starting to get more into essential oils and aromatherapy, which I think is fantastic. And if you want to work with a single note essential oil that kind of does it all, did you know that anise is really good for pain relief? Did you know that anise helps with sleep? Did you know that anise promotes restful sleep so that you don't have too many bad dreams or nightmares? Did you know that anise in Ayurvedic medicine stimulates the lower intestine, so it improves digestion? It's true. That's why a lot of Indian people drink anise tea after they eat a really heavy meal. It is healing for the central nervous system. It is healing for the upper respiratory system. What else does it do? What else do you want it to do? Whatever you want it to do, anise does. I didn't put a ton in the perfume because anise can really overtake. And then people would be like, all I smell is licorice. But if you smell the dry down, you'll smell it. It's in there. There's a little bit of like a zing from anise. And some people like it in perfume, some people don't. I actually have a customer who's asked me to make a pure anise essential oil perfume because she loves the smell so much. And you want to know what's really gorgeous together? Ready? Anise and patchouli. If you want a gorgeous combination that's going to heal every part of your body, fix your digestive system, help you sleep better, and is going to ground you and protect you and calm you, if you want to know what that is, that's anise and patchouli. I've actually thought about making a little blend like that for Sabbatical and calling it like all the things. Because that's what anise and patchouli are. You put them together and it's like grounding, healing, protective, you know, banishes nightmares, helps restful sleep, promotes dream recall, calms the central nervous system, reduces anxiety, reduces inflammation, on and on and on and on. Yeah, so the cleanliness of it, now there is honeysuckle. Honeysuckle is interesting too. This is anti-inflammatory, so you're kind of seeing a path there. Honeysuckle, our ancestors used to take the honeysuckle flowers. It's a really interesting story. Even my grandmother did this. I don't know if your grandma ever did it. We had honeysuckle growing wild where I grew up when I was young. And if I had a cut, she would grab one of the flowers off the vine and just rub it on my cut. Did anybody else's grandma ever do that? It prevents infection in cuts. Isn't that interesting? It's really cool. And so honeysuckle is a diuretic, so it helps rid you of excess fluid in your body, and it's really good for skin disorders like rosacea and eczema. Yeah, she would grab one of the flowers and rub it on, and I was always like, oh, grandma, you know, you're so funny, because I thought she was doing it because it smelled good. I didn't realize that she was doing it. What do they call the thing when you're shaving and you get a little bleed and it stops the bleeding? There's a name for that. It's like some kind of stick. It's a stick or something like that. I'm like losing the name of that, but it's like right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, my grandma used to tell me it's like one of those sticks that stops the bleeding. The styptic pencil. That's right. Strip. Is it striptic or steptic? Anyway, I don't know what it is, but I know that honeysuckle does the exact same thing. You rub the flower on, it stops the bleeding, and it like sort of coagulates. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so that is that. Now, the third thing that is in this perfume, septic. Septic? I thought it had a T at the beginning. Styptic. It's the weirdest word, I swear to God. And what I love is it's stumping all of us. We're like, septic? Styptic? It's really funny. Styptic. I think Fran has the right spelling too. Okay, I don't own one. I also don't own honeysuckle, so I probably should either plant honeysuckle or get a styptic pencil. Lisa. I'm not going to repeat what you said, but it's really funny. Oh my God, I needed that, Lisa. That was a really good, that was a belly laugh. Oh, I love you guys so much. I love you, love you, love you. It's so good. That is so funny. Okay, so oak moss. By the way, did you love the way we did the herbs in the little pouch this time with your star anise right in the middle? Did you love that? I thought that was so beautiful. Whenever I make incense, that's right. That's right. You know what I'm gonna do is go to the pharmacy later tonight and be like, I need a styptic pencil. See what they say. There's a purple-haired lady who's asking me for something really inappropriate over here on aisle 1. Security to aisle 1. Okay. Oak moss. I do not want to forget to talk to you about oak moss. So here's something that you need to know. I'm never out of oak moss absolute, which is the purest form of oak moss essential oil that you can get. And I'll tell you why. And by the way, it is solid at room temperature. So when I put oak moss in a perfume for you, I have to cook it down. And oak moss is like labdanum, where it's really a bitch to cook down, because if you cook it down too far, it burns and it loses its scent. If you don't cook it down far enough, it doesn't mix with jojoba. So then you end up with a glob of oak moss at the bottom of your perfume bottle that never separates. So it says whenever I, want to work with oak moss, I always see everybody around me going, uh-oh. They don't even want to watch me do it, because it's like, they know how stressful it is, because oak moss is very expensive, like wicked expensive. Okay, so it's this whole tedious thing. But I love, love, love it so much. If you have not ever smelled Oak Moss Absolute, you need to do yourself a favor. If it wasn't so expensive, I would make just a pure oak moss perfume, because I love it so much. Now, it's in a lot of men's colognes. And I don't think the Absolute, the pure stuff, I think they use a lot of fragrance oils, because oak moss fragrance oil doesn't smell the same as Oak Moss Absolute. Oak Moss Absolute smells like you're in the middle of the redwood forest. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever smelled that? Have you ever been in the middle of a really dense forest where it's like moss and fog and wood and leaves and just all the smells of nature, but it's thick, in the air? That's the smell of oak moss. So no, what's in the tin is white oak bark. Because did you know, so oak is sacred to Ma'at. Okay, so I was like, oak moss, white oak has to be in there. So it's white oak bark that's in the tin, because I spent 2 months trying to find you good quality oak moss for the tin, and I could not. So Oak Moss Absolute, the really expensive fine grade stuff, is in your perfume. A white oak bark, which is just as magical and has all the same metaphysical properties that oak does, is in your tin. Now oak is really the tree version of this. Protective, grounding, strengthening, really anchoring you into the present moment. That's what oak is all about. So that's why you need oak when you're working with Ma'at. Honeysuckle and the anise that are in here have the same exact metaphysical properties, but I wanted to talk to you about the oak. Oak is one of the strongest trees. Oak is one of the oldest trees. Oak is one of the wisest trees. So it makes sense that when we're honoring a goddess who has such an incredible lineage of strength and endurance and wisdom and balance, the oak tree as it grows, so balanced, because it's going to become so old and thick and strong. It has to grow in a very balanced way. To me, that's all the energy of Ma'at too. Oh man, Lisa, if you didn't get a star anise in your tin, you just let us know. I'll send you one right away. You needed to get one. Star anise, by the way, if you haven't looked closely at it, is all sacred geometry. And do you know how many points there are? It's a pop quiz before I show you. Do you know how many points there are on a star anise? I feel like I need the little Jeopardy music. How many points? There are 8. What does the number 8 represent? Next to 5, it is the most profound number for wealth. And did you know that anise brings prosperity? It's true. So this is another one. You should definitely take your little, unless you're going to burn it, take your little anise seed pod and put it on your prosperity altar. It's all the things. Honeysuckle brings money too. And white oak bark could help you create prosperity for yourself that's enduring, And I like the idea of strong prosperity, right? That isn't fleeting. So that's that too. Very cool. Heather's saying that she found a shop in Etsy that makes tons of cool stuff from 5,000-year-old Irish bog oak. Is Etsy the coolest thing? I mean, sometimes I'm up late at night looking at things and just thinking, there are like dumb things on Etsy where I'm like, really? Somebody put that? And there are things on Etsy where I'm like, that is brilliant and magical and old and wise. Oh, good. Well, So dig into your tin. I hate to have you like make a big mess with your herbs, but if you didn't get one, I want you to have it. So yeah, just message me. I'll get you one. I'll probably remember and just send it to you tomorrow anyway. But the team will be happy to send you one too. Because if you didn't get one, it was our mistake. Okay. Do you have any questions about the herbs, the oils, the stones for Ma'at? Would love to answer them for you. Oh, honeysuckle. Honeysuckle, all the things. Honeysuckle is literally all the things. Anti-inflammatory. Treats cuts and wounds. That's why I gave the story about my grandma with my cut, because she would, when I got cut, and I have such a vivid memory of it because it felt weird. Because honeysuckle, when you pull it off the vine, is sticky. Have you pulled a honeysuckle flower off the vine? It's a little bit sticky. And so I remember her rubbing it on me, and I remember thinking, that smells really good, but that feels really weird. And I think it's the whatever the stickiness of it is, like the sappiness of it, that's what that closed up that cut. It's just kind of interesting. It's a diuretic. It treats asthma, and it treats rosacea and eczema. You can put the oil directly on the skin. Well, it's probably really good for you. I think so, Terry. I think you can, or make a tea out of it. You know, I mean, for me, I constantly am thinking about anti-inflammatory because of, you know, autoimmune conditions. And so for me, the best anti-inflammatory is turmeric, curcumin, right? Is the best thing you can do. And you can take turmeric capsules. You can get them at home, not at Home Depot, but at Whole Foods, or you can get them on Amazon.com. I get my turmeric capsules on Amazon because now there's places to get it in bottles and stuff that are affordable. It used to be so cost prohibitive to get turmeric. And so when Costco first started carrying it, I was like, oh my God, I can finally afford it. But now I get it from Amazon directly. For sure. You could make a beautiful tea out of this. Beautiful tea. I would burn this as an incense, personally myself, because the white oak bark, if you haven't lit it yet, smells beautiful when you burn it. So I would use it as an incense. That's very cool. Yeah, the tea is special. And I love the idea of you know, doing some research, which you could do. We could actually share it as a group, of looking up what the most anti-inflammatory herbs are and thinking about making a tea for ourselves. Because I think not only is it important for aging, like if you're worried about aging skin, people worry about it and they put all kinds of topical stuff on their skin, but they don't do anything on the inside, you know, to fight free radicals, which are what are sort of degrading the collagen composition of your skin. So you have to fight aging from inside. You can't just fight aging from outside. So if you see women who are aging really well, most of the time they're on a really anti-inflammatory diet, which means they're not eating all the fun things. They're not drinking a ton of alcohol. They are, you know, eating a lot of turmeric, a lot of colorful vegetables, lots of red and, you know, orange and green peppers, and they're integrating all that stuff into their diet, which is fighting the free radical process from the inside. Best source for oak moss absolute. I have to go down and look, actually. I can't remember where we order ours from. I order in big quantities. So let me see if I can find you a good retailer for oak moss absolute. And I will let you know that too. Very cool. Any other questions that I can answer for you? Did you like this one? Did you like this set of herbs and stones and gems, or herbs and stones and oils? I thought this was a fun one. Probably not nearly as fun as next month. Just because we're talking about such awesome goddesses and they have so many different things, you know, to offer in correspondences. There's so much to talk about with those three goddesses, so stay tuned. I might have to do a 90-minute Herbwise Gemwise next month. I might need to do that just because I really want to talk about the herbs associated with Lilith, the herbs associated with Morgan, the herbs associated with Hecate, and that might take me a little bit longer. Honeysuckle magical properties. A lot of people talk about love. A lot of people talk about money. I'm gonna get on my soapbox for like a minute, and then I'm gonna stop and switch over to the Mayborn ritual. You ready? Here's my struggle. And this is why I'm finally writing the books, the series of books. I'm writing a book on aromatherapy, which I think I told you. I'm writing a book on gemstones. I'm writing a book on herbs only. And they're separate books. The essential oil book is different than the book on herbs. And the reason I'm doing that finally after all these years and really dedicating the time next year to finish those books is every time I look up, like in Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Herbs, if you were to look up any herbs, it says they're all for luck or money or protection. And that's not really the case. I mean, if you started digging and really doing your research, you realize that these flowers and these herbs have been used for very specific purposes over time. So I will tell you that the main use I've heard for honeysuckle in ritual most of the time is healing, because it does do a lot of actual physical healing in the body. You will hear people talk about love and luck and money with honeysuckle, but I would say mostly for healing in ritual. You know what I mean? But they're not all for protection. That's why I start reading these. Now, keep in mind, I sell Scott Cunningham's book, his herb book, downstairs in the shop here, because people want it. And so it's like, well, I'll carry it. But I always give them the caveat, like, you're going to be disappointed. Hi, Sherry. You're here just in time for me to say goodbye, because I'm going to switch videos. Give me 5 minutes, you guys, to switch over links. I love you. If you're not staying on with me for Maybe on Ritual, I understand. I'm going to switch links right now. This is the end of Herbwise and Gemwise. I'll see you in 5 minutes for our magical Maybe on Ritual. Stay tuned. I'm going to get some more tea too. Bye.